Hello everyone, it is so good to be back here on YouTube. It's been quite a while since I've posted anything. The last time I checked, it's been probably 5 months now since I've uploaded anything on YouTube, and a lot of personal life stuff has kind of gotten in the way of my uploading for you guys, and it's also kind of hindered my schedule too, so I'm not entirely sure when I'll upload next, but it definitely won't be on Tuesday. I will definitely try to upload as much as I can since I don't really have a schedule right now. So with that being said, we're going to do a hopefully a pretty quick tech tutorial today, and it's actually one that I came across while I was at work. So this is just something I'm kind of wanting to share with you. So the purpose of this tutorial that I have planned is we're going to make a lightweight computer from scratch. Now, by the end of this project, you'll probably wonder why I haven't really figured out that I don't really have to go through this whole Linux command thing, and I could just download some Linux desktop client and you would be correct, but I wanted to do this strictly through Linux commands so that people who don't know Linux all that well can actually work with Linux, get to know the command lines a little better, and things like that. So this is something that we're going to be doing, and it shouldn't really take that long. Just myself a little bit. Okay, so yeah, it shouldn't really take that long. Hopefully it'll be pretty easy for all you guys. If not, like all my other tutorials, you can feel free to leave questions down in the comments, and I'll try to answer them as much as I can and as fast and as quick as I can. So the purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to go ahead and show you. So like I said, I want to do a tutorial where we can build some kind of lightweight computer distribution thing from scratch. And how we're going to do this, we're not actually going to build a computer. Rather, we're actually going to do it in VirtualBox. So if you don't have VirtualBox, I highly suggest that you download that because you'll definitely be needing it. And this version is so basic that it can work on any old computers that you have lying around that you just don't really use. So that's what that's for. All right, so I'm going to show you guys what my plan is. So we're going to download Ubuntu 16.04. If you don't have this version, you can go ahead and get it. I'll have a link in the description where you can access this. And rather than downloading the desktop image, we're actually going to get the server image so we can build this ourselves. So you just click the 32-bit version right here and just save the file, click OK. I'm not going to do this because I pretty much made a version of this last night. So this is not necessary for me, but you would click on the server link here and save it to your computer. It's, I think, 814 megabytes right here. So it shouldn't take very long depending on your internet connection. So I'm going to cancel that out, and we're actually going to give it a desktop environment. We're going to give it XFCE instead of GNOME or Unity or any of those other ones, mainly because XFCE is extremely lightweight. And again, I understand that you can download Ubuntu and just do it that way, but you wouldn't really know how to do it with Linux commands and stuff like that. So this is for those who don't really know a lot about Linux and are willing to get started. If they know a little bit about the Linux command line, then this is a really good start to it. So, and if you don't want XFCE, that's fine. There's actually a whole bunch of desktops that you can download for yourself. So mine is going to be Ubuntu right here, this XFCE, but you can pick any one of these other ones and it'll work just the same way. So once you have the server image downloaded, we can minimize this And if you don't have VirtualBox already, I highly suggest you go ahead and download that. That link will also be in the description of this video. So without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get things started here. So first thing we're going to do obviously is make a new machine. I'm just going to call mine Ubuntu client. Now I have the option of downloading a 64-bit or a 32-bit or creating one or the other. So I'm going to do a 32-bit, and I'll explain the difference between the two here in just a minute. So we're going to click next. I'm going to give mine 2 gigs of memory. Keep all the disks out the same. Give it 50 gigabytes of space. And here it is, all ready to go. So we're going to click on the settings gear, and so this is, I'm actually going to go into the description because I'm going to type out some stuff for you guys to know. So like I said before with the 32-bit and 64-bit, the reason why I'm doing a 32-bit version is because a 32-bit version is really for all computers versus 64-bit and modern computers. I know a lot of people nowadays don't really have the capability of going out and buying a brand new computer, and that's totally fine. So what we're going to do is pretty much make one that you can put on any old computer that you have. It can be a laptop, it can be an old desktop computer that you have, things like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to create, what we're going to do is look for an IP, which we're going to grab here shortly once we start the whole installation process. The second thing we're going to need is SSH access, and actually this is optional. You don't really need this. But SSH pretty much allows you to remote into a Linux computer on another system. So you can do Windows or Mac or something like that. So we're going to have SSH. I'm going to write port 22. You'll see why this is really necessary in a while. And I'm going to go ahead and put in my login information. So I'm just going to do that and my password. All right. And I just put asterisk just because I don't want you guys to know the password. Actually, you know, it doesn't really matter. I'll just show it. All right. So that's my password there. So the next thing we need are commands, just to know how to operate or work the computer itself. So the first one that we're going to have to figure out is how to turn the computer off properly. So to shut the computer down, you have 2 options. You can type power off, or if you want, you can type shutdown-h now, and it'll do the same thing. So either one of those 2 commands will work. I recommend power off just because it's the easiest. Alright, to restart the computer, you're going to reboot. Easy enough. And depending on what desktop environment you chose, to start it, you're going to type start, if I can type right, start and the letter X. So that is pretty much everything that we need to know before or once we get the whole thing ready to go. So we're going to hold off on the IP right now because I can just use this later on. Alright, so for the rest of this, go into System, turn off the floppy, and bring it all the way down to the bottom because floppies are pretty much extinct nowadays. We're going to allocate all the video memory that we can. For storage, we're going to give it the server that we've created or that we just downloaded. And for your case, you probably have to click this folder that says choose virtual optical disk file. I didn't have to do this because I've already got it set right here, so I can just click it right there. And if you don't have the extension pack, go ahead and get that as well. I'm not entirely sure if we need this or not, but it's pretty good to have just as a just in case thing. So for network, we're going to set it to bridged adapter and just choose your own wireless or internet card or whatever. that you have. So we're going to do an RT73 wireless LAN card. That's my wireless card. And this is optional. I'm going to turn off the show in full screen because I don't like it there. And click OK, and we're now ready to start it up. Okay, so once you get this screen up, we can just press enter twice because it'll ask what language do you want to run it in. And of course my case is English. You guys can do whatever you guys like. Alright, and then we get to this point. We're just going to press enter until we see everything, or until we see this screen. You actually have the option to let Ubuntu server detect your computer layout or keyboard layout. I don't recommend this because you can actually just choose it. And I'm not entirely sure how good that works, so I just say no, and we'll go ahead and let it sit until things get loaded up here. Alright, so now we're at this point. And this is basically asking you what you want the computer name to be. Mine can just stay Ubuntu, or if you want to change it to like My Linux or something like that. So it doesn't really matter. I'm gonna change mine just to a little demo thing. Matter of fact, My Linux was good, so I'll keep that one. So I can say enter. Then it asks you for your full name, so just type in your full name. And I'm just going to change my username to my first initial and my last name, just to make it easy. Alright, and enter your password. And you want to do this twice. And make sure that you remember this password, because if you don't, you won't be able to log in or authenticate anything. So you really want to write this password down, or you want to remember it in your head, make it something easy, and make sure you only know it, just to be secure. Alright, so now we get to the point where it'll ask if you want to encrypt your home directory. You just say no to that. It'll ask what your time zone is as it sets up the clock. So I am in America, so we can say yes. Alright, then we get to disk partitioning. So this is up to you. I'm going to do guided, use entire disk, and press enter twice. Write these changes to the disk. Yes, we want to do that. So press the left arrow key and just say yes to this. Alright, and now it gets to the point where it will install the entire system. It shouldn't take too long, but I have noticed on my computer it does get stuck at a certain point, and then after a while it does take a little while to start up. So I'm just gonna let it sit, and then I'll come back when it's ready to go. Alright, so at this point now the core of the system is installed, so now it's asking about network and stuff. So it comes to the point where it says, would you like to set up an HTTP proxy? I'm just going to say no, so we can leave this blank. Alright, and then it'll ask if you want to install like automatic security updates or install a program to do it. I'm going to say install security updates automatically. So I'll press enter to that. Alright, and then this is important if you want to do this for SSH. So if you want to have SSH and be able to remote into your computer on someone else's computer, and you know like more about Linux command line stuff, this is important. So you want to scroll all the way down to the bottom and press the space bar to select Open SSH Server, and I'll show you guys how this will work after everything installs, and then after everything is set up and ready to go, I'll show you guys how SSH works. But if you want to, in order to use SSH, you have to have OpenSSH installed. So you just scroll all the way down to the bottom with your arrow keys, press the space key to select OpenSSH, and press enter to continue. And at this point, what it's going to do is it will install the rest of the system. So this shouldn't take too long. Might take a few minutes depending on your computer speed. So I'm gonna let this sit, and then when it's done, or if anything else pops up, I will gladly pop back in. So I'll see you guys in a second. Alright, so when it gets to this point, it's basically just asking, it's basically telling you this is the only this is the only operating system that we found on this computer. Do you want them to go ahead and install the grub bootloader? So I'm just going to say yes to this. It's actually important if you want to have the computer boot up. So there's that. And now it gets to the point where it's going to start finishing the installation. So this shouldn't take but maybe a minute or two. And after that, it'll probably just clean up stuff. And then at that point, we can sit down together. Yep, there it is. So we can say installation's complete. So now we have to reboot the computer. But before we do this, there's actually a hack that we're going to do. And the timing on this is a little is key. So once you once you press enter, when you see that picture, when you see the VirtualBox picture here, the fake BIOS, you want to go ahead and power the machine off. And we're going to right click our system here, right here for Ubuntu client. We're just going to right click, go down to Show in Explorer. We're going to right click the Ubuntu client VirtualBox machine and edit with your text editor. If you have Notepad, do a plus. It'll probably be a little better for you to see. But if you don't, you can do it with the original Notepad as well. So what I'm doing, I'll explain what I'll be doing here in just a second. So I'm going to type cable equals true. Resave it, close it, and start it back up. Now what that just did is basically what happens is when you have a bridged adapter, what you're doing is you're basically giving your computer access to your own internet. And for some reason, Ubuntu Server 16, it may or may not have a bug in the computer or in the software, because sometimes you'll start running through here and you'll see something like a start job has begun for raised network interfaces or something like that. If that happens, it's basically telling you, hey, I can't find any internet connection anywhere. So what you're going to have to do is that hack that we just did, and you should have internet at that point, and then you should be ready to go and continue on. So as a little precaution, go ahead and do that little hack first, and then start it up. Alright, so now we're here. You see we have the My Linux login right there. I'll minimize that in the background. Alright, and we're just going to type our login credentials that we made earlier. And typically when you type in your password in Linux, it will not appear. So that's okay, because it has everything to do with security, really. Alright, so you see right here on the left where it says 90 packages can be updated and 44 updates are security updates. What we're going to do is we're going to first of all clear this out. So we're going to type the word clear. Now get rid of that screen. Then what we're going to do is we're going to type sudo usermod -a -G sudo and the username you made. So mine is Myrtle. Type in your password. Now what that does is it basically gives you what they call super user access. It's kind of like you're the root user now of your machine. Kinda. So we're going to clear that out. And now we're ready to begin. So the first thing we're going to do is type sudo apt-get update. And this doesn't even take but a couple minutes. There we go. Clear that out. And then what we're going to do is type sudo apt-get upgrade. And when asked do you want to continue, you can just press enter to say yes or type an N to say no. So I'm going to say yes, I want to continue with this. It's actually important that you do this because it's upgrading everything to its latest version, and sometimes there's going to be, I think, 4 maybe 5 different packages that won't upgrade, and that's totally okay, as it actually upgrades most of them. So that's something that you definitely want. So we're just going to let this sit, and we'll be right back when it finishes. Alright, so now that the upgrade part has completed, we can now clear this screen out, and just to be safe, we're going to do apt-get update one more time. I know it's not really necessary because we just did it, but just to be extra safe, you always want to do it twice, make sure everything is up to date. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do is actually a little dangerous if you don't know what you're doing, but I will definitely show you guys what to do. It's so easy. So what we're going to do is update the grub file to prevent your screen from timing out. Basically what happens if you don't touch your Linux server after a certain amount of time, the Linux server will just go to a black screen and you won't be able to get it back. So to prevent this from happening, we're going to type sudo nano /etc /default /grub. Alright, and you'll see this little text editor right here. We can just go back up here. This line right here that says grub command line Linux default. We're going to type console blank equals 0. Put the end quotation mark back in its place. Do a command O that will rewrite the file and just press enter to overwrite. So we just wrote 34 lines in this file, so we're going to do a control X to get out. And what we're going to do now is type sudo update -grub. It's very important that you type the update grub command, because if you don't, that change you just made will not work. So be sure you type that out. So press enter and done. And the next thing that we're going to do is reboot the machine. So just type reboot. And what this does is it pretty much finalizes all the settings for you. So we definitely want to make sure that we do the update grub command and reboot the machine just to be safe. So now it's booting back in through the kernels that we had earlier. Welcome to Ubuntu 16. It's loading up our server just like it did before. And you can see real briefly it says found device 82540 gigabit. I did see that something failed. That's totally fine. We can probably update something else later. Alright, so just type out what we just did a minute ago. Or type out what you did just a minute ago with your login stuff. So you have to log back into the machine again and clear that screen out as well. And the next thing we're going to do, just to be safe, is install the packages that are required for VirtualBox and its guest editions. So this won't work for the desktop, but it will work for the server. So for the command line, you want to have the VirtualBox server guest edition. So we're going to type sudo apt-get install VirtualBox -guest -dkms and enter your password to authenticate. Say yes to that. And this will download all the packages needed to run Ubuntu's VirtualBox guest editions later. So this is pretty much the terminal part. What we're going to do once we get the desktop loaded, what we're going to do is we're going to create the crap, I just lost my words. Well, basically what we're going to do is create the VirtualBox desktop part when we do the desktop installation. So right now we're doing the server stuff and getting all that ready. And pretty much after this command, we're going to be installing the desktop anyway. So we're actually almost done with the whole command line stuff. So once VirtualBox finishes, we'll be ready to install the desktop of our choice. So that should take just a minute or two. Alright, so now the VirtualBox part is done, so I can clear this screen out. Clear is actually important just to give you a blank slate. So it's not required. I just type clear in there just to give me a blank slate. Alright, and the last thing that we're going to do in the command line is the desktop of our choice. So we have an option. We can do Unity, we can do KDE, we can do LXDE, which is Lubuntu, Mate, Genome, and XFCE. I'm going to do XFCE in mine, but you can do any one of these. So for XFCE, just follow along with me, for those of you who are, we're going to type sudo apt-get install Xubuntu-desktop, and that's it. Once you do this, it'll take quite a few minutes for everything to install. So there's probably going to be a time lapse on all the gaps that I've had within this video. So we've already got that command line down. We can close that and get it out of the way. All that's left to do now is press enter, and it'll load all the packages that we need, and then it'll ask if you want to continue. We can say yes to that. So like just right there, it says we've got 1,158 newly installed, need to get 652 megabytes. So this is going to take quite a few minutes for everything to work. It will do that pretty much for any desktop that you download. So we're just going to say yes to that, and then we're just going to let it sit and do its thing. It will take a while, so be patient. I'll be right back when everything finishes. Alright guys, we're finally back after quite a few minutes. I've actually been recording this video now for almost an hour, and we've just now finished the terminal stuff, and we still have yet to do the desktop stuff. So now we're going to clear all of that stuff out. So we're just going to go in here, type clear. And I'm just going to do a sudo update one more time just to be sure everything is up to date. And as you can see, now we've got a lot more stuff. So it actually is important, believe it or not, that you do this. To do a sudo apt update. I wouldn't worry about upgrading at this point, just because everything's ready to go. So we're going to clear it out. Now comes the fun part, and that's actually starting the desktop. So all we have to do to type that is start X. Nope. Server terminated closing log file. That's weird. Didn't used to do that. Alright. Oh, there it goes. Well, there it went. Anyway. Alright, let me do apt-get upgrade here. Nothing. Okay, so that's good. Interesting. I wonder if I'm having issues with my network again. Let's do a quick reboot or do a power off. Let me check the network. I got a feeling that the network is the problem, so you may have to do that network hack a couple times just to make sure that everything works. And yep, just as I feared, we're having issues with our network again. So cable equals true, save, close that, close that. Now let's try it. This time we shouldn't be having that error. Yeah, we do want to keep Ubuntu up because at this point now we probably just had to reboot after installing all that stuff. That could have been what it was. So now it's taking up. I just can't believe this whole video is taking all day to do. I'm already set at 57 minutes in recording right now. Obviously, this video is going to be trimmed down to as less time as possible because I don't want you guys to sit through all this boring stuff. And I definitely do understand when you guys say that I could have just downloaded Ubuntu and just not had to care about doing any of this. But I want to show you what it looked like through the terminal. So this is what it looks like through a terminal standpoint rather than just a usual desktop look standpoint. Alright, so as you can see now we are now into the we're now into our desktops. Now everything is ready to go, and here we are 58 minutes later, and we are just now getting to the desktop. So I do understand it's a little tedious, but that's pretty much what happens when you install a desktop client, is all that stuff we just did. Alright, so at this point we're going to type in our password to go ahead and log in. And now your computer is pretty much ready to use. But before we end things in this tutorial, I wanted to show you guys how to put VirtualBox guest editions in Linux, and maybe in a future video we'll come back to this and we'll add a couple themes, make it look more modern. If you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments. Alright, so obviously we have a software updater. I'm not going to worry about this. I'll come back and take care of it myself. But I'm not going to click install now right now because we just sat through here and we did all this good stuff for a good hour, and then we're going to have to reboot again. So I'm not going to worry about doing any more updates for this tutorial, but of course it is very important that you keep everything up to date, so you guys can click install now and go ahead and have everything up to date. In my case, I'm not going to because I'll come back and do it later, so I'm just going to minimize that. And let's go ahead and get going here. So to open, first of all, to open up the menu, you click the little I don't know if that's a mouse or like a rat or something like that, but you click this little button up here. We're going to terminal emulator, and we're just going to have that off to the side. Let's insert our guest editions image. Alright, and there we go. So we're going to find VBox Linux editions and just drag it into the terminal. And it's actually, you're actually supposed to run this with admin permissions, so you want to put sudo before it, because if you don't, it won't work. And enter your password to authenticate. We do want to continue, so we're going to type yes. And at this point, it's now building everything. It's not installing any packages or patches or anything like that. So because of course we did that earlier, so now it's putting everything into the terminal, and now it's pretty much activating them at this point. Is really what's going on. So when that's done, we're going to reboot the computer, and at that point, everything will be ready to go. So once this is finished, we'll do a quick reboot, and then we'll get out of here, and I'll leave you guys with some final notes just to show you guys how you can easily do this. If you don't want to do it this way, you're more than happy to go and download Xubuntu, which is basically what this is. It's just we created it instead of downloaded it. So we created this whole thing through a server instead of downloading a desktop terminal. Alright, so they just finished, and it says, of course, you may need to restart the Windows system or just restart the guest system to enable the guest editions. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to do clear and reboot one more time. And there it goes. And now once it starts back up, at this point it won't pop up to the server anymore. At least it shouldn't. It shouldn't pop up to the server. It should now pop up to the desktop client every time, although it should show you the whole command line and everything that the server is actually loading and Linux is loading, just like this. So if you see this, it's totally normal. It's just the operating system is starting to load and everything's slowly getting ready to go. So as usual, no floppy controllers found. Welcome to Ubuntu 16. Now, believe it or not, you're not actually running Xubuntu, even though technically you are running Xubuntu, but you're actually running you're running Ubuntu on an XFCE desktop. You're not actually running Xubuntu. While Xubuntu is the desktop version of Ubuntu, is the XFCE desktop version of Ubuntu, we just did this through a server instead of downloading it manually. So I'm going to go ahead and log back in. And at this point, I can now go through here and I can put this in full screen if I want. I should be able to drag this out completely and have the desktop just expand. Of course, it's not doing that right now. But if you were up there, it just went. So I can now click and, oops, I need to eject. Alright, Well, I'll take a while. All right. So at this point, it's now ready to go, and you can just sit here and use it all you want. And it's very lightweight. It runs. It's running currently on 2 gigabytes of RAM, and for 2 gigabytes of RAM, it's actually running pretty quickly. So I can sit here and create documents and do all kinds of things with it. To install a theme, we'll go ahead and install a theme, but we'll do that in another video. If you guys want to see that, let me know in the comments below. Alright guys, I actually forgot to show you how to SSH into your computer from another system. So I've got 4 different windows here open on my computer as of right now. So the first one is our VirtualBox manager. We don't really need that, so that can just go out of the way. So let me cancel that. I'll just throw it over here. There we go. Put on my second monitor. We've got PuTTY right here, and then we've got, we actually need to grab the settings and our description here as well. Alright, so within your VirtualBox manager, after you've rebooted everything and after everything is installed, you'll want to go in here and click the settings gear right here. I'm not going to do it yet because I'm going to go on my second monitor because I'm running out of space. Alright, so you're going to go into your little description menu. Under General, click Description, and you'll see where we have all the commands that we typed out just moments ago. And I'm actually in the machine I made last night, so I'm just going to show you guys how to do this. Very simple. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and boot into the machine here. I'm going to move everything over just a little so you guys can see everything work properly. So there we go. Everything's like, whoops. Okay. Not sure how that popped up, but alright, so after everything loads in here, I don't have any desktop icons or anything, so I have to go and search for them. So I'm going to click over here. We're going to open up the terminal. Alright, and what we're looking for is a specific set of numbers. It's called your IP address. So if you remember when we created, if you'll remember when we first created the virtual machine, we actually didn't have our IP address. It's because we never grabbed it. So now we're going to type ifconfig, and within the first adapter up here at the top, notice how you have a 1277.0.0.1. This is not your IP address. So this is actually a loopback. So don't worry about anything from here. Don't read the loopback. What we're focused on is this up here. We're looking at the Ethernet link, ENPOS3 or ETH0, whatever you guys have. This is what we're looking at. So my IP address is right here. So I'm going to type that in my description just to have it in my head. Oh, I just realized I don't have my number lock on. Alright, and that's my IP. So we're ready to go on that end. We can click OK, and that will go away. So I'll minimize that, get out of the way, and now comes the fun part. We can actually SSH into it. Remember how we installed OpenSSH server? Now we're ready to go ahead and remote into the computer itself. So we can type in that same IP address, keep the port 22, keep the SSH. We're going to click open. As a matter of fact, sometimes it doesn't want to, sometimes it just doesn't really want to work, so I'll close that session. But what you do is you click you type in that same IP address, you go to your port 22 SSH, you'll click open. Here it is. So this is what I was talking about a moment ago. It says the server's host key is not cached in the registry. You have no guarantee this is the server that you think it is. which as a matter of fact it is because we just made it. So we're going to click the yes to bypass, and you'll see it says login as right here. So we're just going to type in our credentials that we made and enter the password we made, and now we're in. So I can clear this out. I can do a sudo update if I want, and I don't even have to be in my machine. So this can be completely minimized if I want it to be. I can clear everything out. I can do an upgrade here as well, and everything's fine there. So we're all good to go. And to get out of this, you just type exit, and that's it. Alright, so that is it for this video. Definitely this time. Thank you guys so much for coming out to watch, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Take care.